To be honest, I'm a bit disappointed. I would like to start this video with a bit of a personal horror story and a warning on dangers of gardening. The plan was that I'm going for a hike today. And to be honest, I was actually planning to film this video during the hike just to give you a bit of a scenery and to show you nice weather here in the UK, which is not very often, even though recently it's actually very hot and it's not to my liking because, come on, I came to the UK for the gloomy weather and I love it. And now we're having these heat waves. I hate it. Please bring back normal British weather. I implore you. But anyway, the plan was for me to go on a hike, my partner and I. But this week on Tuesday, I was doing a bit of gardening in our garden. So I was trying to sow some seeds. And I got bitten by an insect. I'm not sure what attacked me. I didn't really see it, but something attacked me and bit me just above the ankle. And it's okay, it does happen sometimes. But it quickly escalated and I got an infection. So my left foot now is red, itchy, and swollen. And obviously, I couldn't go on a hike because my foot literally doesn't fit in the boot. And I had to go to an emergency room in a hospital to see a doctor, and I was prescribed some antibiotics for the infection. And I'm supposed to take antibiotics, but hey, I am usually trying to avoid pills, so I'm waiting for it maybe to go down on its own. We'll see, I don't know. But yes, gardening is dangerous, guys. I think my garden is actually trying to kill me. I think it's trying to take revenge on me for all the work I'm doing there because I pretty much am the only and the first and the only person who is actually trying to cultivate anything there. And I think it just decided to take its revenge because I'm disturbing its wilderness. But well, yes, that's my personal horror story. Hopefully, it will get better because I still have to go to the office next week. Hopefully, I'll manage to put my feet in my shoes. We'll see. But yes, you don't have nice seaside scenery because of it. Yes, we are back with my books. But today, I would like to talk to you about all the books I read in the month of June. I know it's a bit late, but I think it's better later than never. And in the month of June, I read 9 books. I know it sounds like a lot, but many of these books were actually quite short. So don't think that I'm lying to you when I'm saying to you repeatedly that I'm a very slow reader. And after that, I'm trying to shock you saying that I have read 9 books a month. It was just aided by the fact that many of them were very short. And I had quite a good reading month. And I would say that June was pretty much a fantasy young adult month for me. I'm not sure if some of these books that I read are officially young adult, but I would say that you could potentially categorize them as young adult. And the first book that I read in the month of June was Hills of Heather and Bone by K.A. Andrews. And I already have a full review of this book. I will actually link it down below. And if you're interested in the full review of this book, please have a look. I really enjoyed my time with this book because, in my opinion, it was almost a perfect combination of cozy and dark fantasy. And we had quite lots of romance in this book, even though if you follow my channel, you know I don't really like romantasy genre. But I think recently we apply of a too narrow definition to romantasy. And I think, in my personal opinion, this book really fits romantasy for me personally, even though maybe some people will say that it's not really a typical romantasy book. But in this book, we are following a married couple, which is already quite unusual because we don't really see many married couples in our fantasy books. And our main character is a necromancer, and she has to hide this gift from the rest of the people around her because necromancers are generally persecuted in this society because they are seen as something dangerous, and it's closely intertwined with their religion in this world. I think the religious aspect of the book was actually done very, very well. And again, if you want to see my full thoughts on this book, please check out my review. And this couple has to go on a run every time they're discovered. And throughout the book, we see their relationship, how they support and cherish each other. And we see all their communication inside the couple and how they're trying to flee and try to find a safe space for them where they can actually establish their family. I think the human relationship and connection of the book was the strongest point for me personally. And I would actually really recommend this book if you're looking for something like that, because it was truly a great combination of coziness and dark fantasy. Because when our couple has some peaceful time in their life, you get glimpse into their family life and you can enjoy this time of peace and coziness. And after that, it's usually interrupted by some violence and they have to run away and try to establish their life somewhere else. I truly enjoy my time with this book, and I probably should check out some other books by this author. And after that, I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and it is a reread for me. And I'm reading it with some other people on BookTube. It is a reread for some of them, and some of the people actually reading it for the first time, and we're planning to have a discussion soon, probably by the end of July. I read it first time in the past. It was quite a while ago, but to be honest, some of the scenes were really deeply ingrained in my mind, and I vividly remember them just because they scarred me probably for life. And it is very interesting to actually reread some of the books and refresh your memories and opinions on them. And what I often find that my opinions and the view I have on these books are actually evolving with time, because you are evolving as a human being and your opinions are probably changing as well. And for instance, in the case of The Road, I remember that when I read this book first time, I don't remember how old it was a long time ago. I found it very dark and almost nihilistic, I would say. But reading it now, I realized there is so much hope in love in this book. I watched some videos about this book, and it looks like it is one of the most cheerful books by Cormac McCarthy. If you read many of his books, please let me know what you think about it, because I am actually interested in reading more of his books, because The Road is the only book I read by him. I actually have Passenger and Stella Maris, but I started reading it and I put it down for some reason. I don't remember why at the moment. I probably should grab it again and try to give it a go again. But I read his books are usually very, very bleak. But in case of Road, yes, there is lots of bleakness and darkness and violence and discussion on human nature, I would say. But at the same time, there is lots of hope and love embedded in the story. And here we are following a couple of a father and a son, so we get lots of exposure in the parent-child relationship, and to be precise, in the father-son relationship. And something happened on Earth. We don't really get much of information about exactly what happened before the events of the book, but I have a suspicion that probably it's something related to the nuclear weapon. I'm not sure, but again, it's my opinion. We don't really know. It's never actually revealed in the book, as far as I know. And we just follow this father and son duo while they're trying to traverse this land and trying to find food and shelter and trying to find the goal that makes them to actually move on, because there is no much hope in this world. That's why when I read it first time, I found it very nihilistic. And there is lots of violence. But again, I don't really actually want to talk too much about this book, because we are planning to have a discussion, and when we'll have the discussion, I'll put the link on my channel, so if you're interested, you can actually have a look. But I know that lots of people find it too dark for their liking. That's not the case for me. I personally think that it's very truthful, I would say. And at the same time, as I said already, there is lots of hope and love in this book. But please let me know if you read this book and what you actually think about it, because I know for some people it's quite divisive. And after that, I read The Life of Chuck by Stephen King. It is a short story, and I know that it used to be a part of another short story collection. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a part of If It Bleeds. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I've never actually read it before because I got it as a separate book this time. And I read it first time as a solo short story. I really enjoyed it. But I was very confused because when I finished this book, I put it as part of my Storygraph account. I updated my account. And for some reason, it categorized it as a horror. I'm not sure. I didn't see anything horrific there. I think it's just probably part of an algorithm when the program sees that it's Stephen King, it's probably the horror story. And it's not. It's not a horror. It's just such an unusual story for Stephen King, in my opinion, because it is very sentimental and heartwarming. And I found it very sweet and absolutely loved my time with this book. And I have a full review of the story. It's very experimental review. It's very short, but yes, it's very different from the rest of the reviews I put on my channel. I'll put it down below again. If you're interested, please have a look. I don't really want to talk too much about this book here just because it's a short story. And it's quite easy to spoil it, but I would say that in this book, we are talking about Chuck. We are not maybe necessarily following Chuck, but we're talking about Chuck, and Chuck is dying. That's the only thing I want you to know. And another book that I read in the month of June is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. I'm probably one of the last people on the planet Earth that haven't read it, but now I rectified it and I did enjoy it. I am sort of in two minds about this book because I know it's a very, very loved book, and I really tried to love it, and I didn't, but I really liked it. I just felt that some of the things didn't really find the balance for me. But anyway, it is, I would say, a fairy tale. And we follow a unicorn when she realized that probably she is the last unicorn on the planet. And she is forced to leave her forest where she spent all her life in order to find the rest of unicorns because she doesn't want to be the last unicorn, and she's trying to save them from the Red Bull. And on her journey, she meets different characters and they join her on her quest. And we see their adventure. It's a very lyrical, very beautiful tale. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I feel combination of certain things maybe didn't really work for me, let's say 100%, because I really enjoyed the lyrical part of it. And I think the author is a poet. You can really feel it while reading this book because lots of the parts of the book are very poetic. And I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I think the humor part of the book really didn't fit with the rest of the experience for me personally. But again, I think humor is very subjective. And I think in my case, it just didn't really feel that it fits the rest of the narrative and the rest of the book, the spirit of it. I don't know. I'm not really sure what exactly didn't click for me 100%. But I'm not saying I had a bad experience. I really enjoyed it. I can't say that it is one of my favorites of all time, I would say. On my personal scale, it feels like it was around 4 stars out of 5. I just feel I didn't really love it as much as I would like to, because I had very high expectations going into the story. But again, I think sometimes our expectations actually hindering our experience of reading. I think sometimes it's better to go in the story without any type of expectation. And The Last Unicorn was one of these books that I would potentially categorize it as young adult. I'm not sure if it's officially young adult, but I felt like it could be. And another book that I would potentially categorize as a young adult is Ragnarok, The End of the Gods by A.S. Piet. I'm not sure if I pronounced this name correctly, but hey, I'm sorry. But it is a very short story, and I actually bought this book on my holiday because in June we went to Budapest in Hungary, and we spent about a week in Budapest. But I wasn't really filming anything there because originally I was thinking to do a reading vlog there. But I just decided to have a social media free holiday. I wasn't really taking any photos, I wasn't really filming anything. I was just relaxing and reading and spending time with my partner. And one of the reasons why I probably decided not to do reading log, they don't really do well on my channel. I'm not sure. Please let me know if you actually enjoy them. I don't know. I personally really like filming them, but I feel like no one really likes them. So I'm not sure if it actually makes sense to show them. But the thing is, I travel quite a lot, and probably I would like to show different places to people and just discuss books on my travels. But if no one is watching, it feels like a waste of time and effort for me. Anyway, let me know if you're actually interested in them. But I bought Ragnarok in one of the shops in Budapest and I read it on that holiday. And it is quite difficult for me to actually talk about this book because there is no actual plot there. Because in this book, we are following a Finn child. We never really learn her name, but it is actually happening during Second World War in Britain, and she is evacuated with her family to an English countryside from London to try to avoid the war. And we see how she's developing and how she reads and how she gets enamored with mythical stories and her shifting understanding of the world and events happening around her are closely intertwined with the stories, mythical stories of Ragnarok. And I would say that in this book, we don't really get a plot for the child because we don't really know how her life is developed. We don't really see her on daily basis. There is not a plot dedicated to her. But at the same time, we don't really get a full overview of Norse mythology because there are only certain parts of it that are covered in the book, but it's generally just a joint experience of a child reading the stories and trying to shape her worldview and how the stories are affecting her worldview and how she's trying to see the world through these stories and how they are helping her to understand events that are happening around her. I found it a very interesting reading experience and I would recommend it, but if you like strong plots in your books, probably it will be a miss for you. And another book that I managed to read during our holiday in Budapest was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This is the second book in Harry Potter series. I'm not gonna go into details of the series because probably majority of people know it, and I'm not gonna discuss all the controversy around it. I'm reading it with a friend of mine because we decided to do a Harry Potter reread and a Harry Potter rewatch. So what we do, we read one Harry Potter book a month and we watch a movie associated with this book after it and just trying to relive these childhood experiences and trying to understand if our feelings about the series evolved. It is very interesting experience because I read these books a long time ago when I was a child, and obviously I grew up on them. And there's lots of nostalgia associated with the series, and I still really, really love my experience with it. There are some faults with this series that I didn't really notice it before being a child. Obviously, your perception of books is very, very different. But as I already said, I'm not gonna go into details. I think it's very personal for everyone. If you love the series, you will still really enjoy it, even though there are some things that probably you will rethink on your read now if you decide to pick it up now. But still, it is one of the most exciting reading experiences for me. And the last three books that I managed to read in the month of June are three books of Demonata series, books 6, 7, and 8. Demon Apocalypse, Death Shadow, and Wolf Island. I'm not sure if you're aware, but David from Four Corners of the Page and I are doing a read along of the series. It is a reread for him because he grew up on these books, but it is actually a first read through for me. And I'm having a blast. It is not a perfect series. There are lots of things that are weird and could be criticized about the series. And we had already a discussion on the books 1 through 5. And by the end of the month, we are planning to have a discussion about books 6 through 10. So we're finishing the series, we are wrapping it up, and we're talking about it as a whole. So if you're interested, please wait. We will talk about the series together. But in this series, we are following teenagers and how they're trying to save planet Earth from demon invasion. I'm not planning to discuss each of these books individually because it will be spoilers, because these are already books 6 through 8 and it's almost end of the series. But if you are interested, please watch our discussion. It is a very exciting series and very, very dark. I would say very questionable for the young adult and middle grade range it is aimed at. I think officially it is middle grade. Come on, you can't read it as a child, especially in middle grade. I would say probably young adult. I wouldn't recommend it probably anyone before the age of 13 because it's so bloody and gory. But it's not only about the amount of violence, even though it's overwhelming. I think there are lots of things that potentially could be discussed with the parents just to give a better background and probably direct the thinking of a young person that is actually reading these books. We discussed some of these topics already in our first discussion. If you're interested, I will put a link down below, but stay tuned and we will put a new discussion soon. I'm really excited. It was quite a surprise, all my experience with the series. And another thing about the series, I'm trying to wrap it up as quickly as possible because what I noticed, and I think it is especially true for fantasy readers, we usually start books and we start a series, and after that we start another series, another one, and at some point we have like 30-40 series going around at the same time. And when another book comes out, or maybe it's already out, but when we actually get to it, we don't really remember much about the story from the first book, and majority of them don't really have recaps. What I decided to do, if the whole series is available, I'll just try to read it as soon as possible. So I have fresh memories and I actually can form an opinion and have the best of the experience for the whole series as soon as possible. So I don't have a chance to actually forget what I'm reading about. So I'm very proud of myself. I'm finishing and wrapping up the Demonata series and we will have a discussion soon. But yes, this is my overview of my reading month of June. Probably very long-winded and very long, but I really hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you read any of these books, or maybe you are planning to read them. Maybe I interested you in some of them, and let me know your opinion. Or let me know what you were reading, and maybe recommend me some of the books. I'm always very excited to be recommended some other books. And I'll see you later. Bye.